Hello there, my very good friends. On today's wrestling news, huge backstage heat on WWE Star.
Are the Elite out of this Wednesday's Dynamite with CM Punk stepping in?
We're going to tell you how AEW really felt about Collision's debut.
And we've got a latest update on AEW's Collision Dynamite roster split.
Ooh, I'm Andy Murray.
I'm Michael Hamflett.
And this is the news. Adam Wilborn's still in the sun somewhere, sunning and funning.
Living his best life.
He is indeed. Let's kick this thing off by talking about Top Dollar.
Yeah, okay.
Headline making story, I guess. Top Dollar has been in the news over the weekend. It kind of stems from SmackDown. He was buried pretty badly he's buried every week on SmackDown when Michael Cole's on the microphone. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, Hit Row were participants in that tag team gauntlet match and they lost to the Brawling Brutes in about 8 seconds. Top Dollar looked like a complete buffoon, like in kayfabe. And Dave Meltzer's reporting now that he has enemies on the creative team, which may have been why this panned out the way it did. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave reporting that Top Dollar is not very popular with some people, and he was dealt the burial of all burials as a result of this on SmackDown. Dropped it in 8 seconds. So Top Dollar and Hit Row in general have had a crap 2023, just like wins and losses wise. They haven't won since January in a regular 2-on-2 match, and they've had one tag team match this year that's gone more than 5 minutes. That was against Braun and Ricochet. Mostly they just kind of they're like enhancement talents now, that's their role. And look, you need enhancement talents on WWE television. I'm not sitting here saying that Hit Row should be booked like Peak Edge and Christian or whatever. But like, they're not exactly booked in the way that's ever going to get them over. I think for me, right, when you're talking about burials and stuff, it's tough to take just like one isolated thing and go, they're being buried or whatever. But when you listen to the way that Top Dollar in particular is referred to by Michael Cole, to me it seems that's usually an edict. That's usually, and it was something that Vince would do all the time when he was in Gorilla every week, just putting people down via the commentators. Cole does it all the time. Of course, it stems from when Top Dollar botched the dive to the outside in December. And ever since then, he's Flop Dollar. There was a thing in a Battle Royal where he was like, oh, Top Dollar's going to win this because he can't get over the top rope. Right, admittedly, right? Some of these lines are pretty funny.
In a way, they're kind of competing for best patter when you're in the ring. Like, it becomes this competitive joke. Contest.
They're funny, right? But they're also really quite mean.
Yeah.
Because I'm, you know me, I'm not one to harp on botches and stuff. I think that's whack-ass, lame, rubbish, loser behavior. So to hear a commentator doing that is really strange. But there you go, Top Dollar, seemingly not the most popular guy.
No, as you point out, Hit Row have not had the best run on the main roster in general. And not at all this year, whether it be in kayfabe or reality. Look, I'm a fan of Triple H's booking, broadly speaking, compared to when Vince McMahon was in charge, but it's worth remembering that he's not done anything to adjust the culture backstage, maybe, if you're having this happen. You're right to point out that this is a Vince McMahon play that Triple H is gladly using as what? Like, upside down motivation? Is this somehow going to encourage Top Dollar to want to improve on the things of which he's not even being told are wrong? Just like, that botch from months ago, well, fix that. Turn back time and fix that.
And he has fixed it because he's done it since then, and like the guy's done it in the past, so it's something he clearly can do. It's just so weird. And like, especially when it's a guy like Top Dollar is he's a rogue element. He's a bit chaotic, right? He'll do a rap about the Young Bucks, about shoes and stuff. Like
he wants legends to give their possessions over to WWE.
Yeah,
he's mad into that.
He's a silly sausage sometimes. But that being said, he's also put like a lot of graft in this year to like get in better shape and transform his body and stuff. He looks phenomenal. I want to know his secrets actually. So like, I'm not here for companies literally bullying employees on air or independent contractors on air. Justice for Top Dollar is what I'm saying. Push Hit Row, I guess.
I did not imagine we would get there to there with our Hit Row Top Dollar love here at the WhatCulture Towers.
The other part of this is that Adonis is like actually great, like a fantastic wrestler.
That is the one thing about a member of a tag team getting heat. You can see Adonis dodging all of it right now.
Yeah.
Like, it's constantly Top Dollar eating the pins. It's him that looks at fault for Hit Row's on-screen failing. So if nothing else, if they genuinely believe that this is going to change people's perception, they probably won't do it at Ashanti the Adonis.
Yeah.
You would assume. Anyway.
Fingers crossed.
Speaking of perception, could there be one going on within AEW? Because This week on Wednesday's Dynamite, the Elite might not be in attendance, of course, as Dynamite emanates from Chicago, but CM Punk could be. This is not the news we expected to report when Collision debuted on Saturday, but this is what we've got currently, according to Fightful Select, as a possibility. It's going to emanate from the Wintrust Arena, which is where AEW visited loads over the years, and I believe was a venue where the Elite first referenced the Punk Brawl-Out stuff in one of their trios matches last summer.
What a joy that
All
was.
of that sort of stuff, that was all when it was booting off. They were
that was so good.
glad to work as heels in a building where they knew they were going to get booed. It created a bunch of news and all that sort of stuff. And of course, Punk referenced the Elite in his promo when he returned on Saturday's Collision. But Fightful have got that Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks were not there for Collision on Saturday and also might not be there for Dynamite on Wednesday. AEW's apparently got some pre-tapes so that the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega can reference all the ongoing storylines in AEW with them at the moment. Last week's Dynamite ended with a huge showdown with multiple sort of moving pieces featuring the Bucks and Kenny Omega and Hangman Page and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, as of right now, there is no official word on whether the Young Bucks or Kenny could be there, and Punk might be dropped in. We're going to have a little bit more later on about the potential Collision and Dynamite roster splits. But yeah, Punk on a Dynamite is wild until you maybe consider the location, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's Chicago, isn't it? And he is Chicago Phil. At the end of the day, there are very few wrestlers who are as synonymous with their hometown as CM Punk is. So, also the other aspect of it is things like ticket sales and TV numbers and stuff, and we don't know how CM Punk's going to emerge as like a TV draw until we start getting some numbers through on that. So yeah, I'm not terribly surprised. Obviously, if they're doing pre-tapes, it sounds like they're maybe preparing for them not to be in town, which would be in line with this report, obviously. So we'll see how it pans out. I mean, I would have CM Punk on the show. You're in Chicago. To me, that's a no-brainer.
It has potential for Forbidden Door ramifications, of course, as well, because Kenny Omega doing a pre-tape, not that wild. It's going to be the go-home Dynamite for Forbidden Door. He's going to be having his last words to Will Ospreay. But as of right now, neither the Young Bucks or Punk are on that Forbidden Door show.
They're teaming up.
What, together?
Yeah.
They're just going to work at trios?
Yeah.
I mean, against like Kenny and Bishamon. Against
Bishamon.
Kenta and Bishamon,
and Big Tom or something.
We'll just do
why
that.
not?
Neither of them are both currently on the card. Obviously, there's been rumours about the Punk match, but less so for the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
So maybe Dynamite should, at least, if nothing else, focus on what's hot, which is Punk, and the pay-per-view they're selling, which is Forbidden Door. So maybe this is going to be storming the teacup stuff coming Thursday morning.
Yeah. Let us know what you think. Do you reckon CM Punk and the Elite, do you think they can actually keep them apart for long? Do you think they're bound to bump into each other? Is this all combustible? We've got some Twitter questions on this stuff coming up later on in the video, but let us know what you think down below. It's a really interesting conversation. Sometimes people get really nasty with it, so please don't do that.
Don't fight over it.
Yeah,
we don't need
fight.
a brawl out in our comments.
No fighting, please.
We don't want to set up separate brands for the different strands of comment sections, where only some can comment on Wednesdays and some can comment on Saturdays. That seems untenable.
Yeah, that would take a lot of admin work, brother. I'm not doing that. Right, we're going to move over and talk about Collision a little bit. Report here from PW Insider. What was the backstage reaction like? Positive. It was good. Noting Mike Johnson here, noting that people within the company felt good about the show, believing that they did a good job in making it feel sufficiently different to Dynamite. So this was largely built around CM Punk. This show, of course, he did the promo, he did the match, he's back, all of that stuff, all of that. PW Insider note as well that it was a big night for merch. Apparently, most of what was available was sold out by the end of the show, which is interesting because from people who've attended AEW shows, yourself included, I've heard they have one line.
It's not great.
They don't have enough.
It doesn't encourage you to get involved and buy something.
Yeah,
no.
So maybe it was different in the United Center. I don't know. CM Punk, unsurprisingly, was the top seller on the night. I assume that Larry t-shirt was selling like dog cakes. It was a holiday weekend in the United States. Of course, we had Father's Day, we got Juneteenth, so there is going to be a delay in TV numbers coming through. But Dave Meltzer writes in the Wrestling Observer Daily Update that the show's top 10 position in Saturday's Google rankings would indicate maybe they're going to be quite good, although we won't know obviously until they come out. So broadly positive surrounding Collision. If you want to know our thoughts, we did a What Went Down after the show. We did a live stream that's like 3 hours long. If you want the full experience, you can check that out. But yeah, there you go. AEW, pretty happy.
Yeah, as you say, I think ratings Tuesday, Wednesday, that will be, of course, all the conversation, because so much of the chat
can't be asked.
Well, so much of the chat in the build-up to Punk's return has been about drawing and about numbers and about those kind of things, so that's going to dominate the discussion, I'm sure, later this week. But yeah, if you want more discussion on Collision, there's me and Murray going live on YouTube, Simon Miller's up and downs there, we've got a What Went Down, myself and Michael Sidgwick will sit down to do a full podcast review later.
Pollard wrote he wrote ups and downs, sorry, for the website.
We've
There's
got
another one.
all the Collision that's fit to print and hear and watch and all that kind of stuff.
Collide it right into your brain.
And I actually agree with the one take, above all else, about the aesthetics. It did, the way it was paced and the way it looked, did feel sufficiently different than Dynamite.
I like the red and the yellow.
And I just remember how it didn't feel like that when Rampage debuted. So we can give it that, if nothing else. But speaking of TV shows that are maybe different from each other or not, there are some various reports coming in about the AEW Collision Dynamite roster split, or whether or not it's even going to take place. We've reported that CM Punk might indeed be on Dynamite this week. And apparently, Fightful Select have it that the original plans for the hard roster split that had been speculated upon were given the mixed blessings from the AEW Backstage lot. Of course, we had Collision launching on Saturday. Dynamite has its regular roster. Collision was advertising specific members of their AEW roster we hadn't seen in some time. And according to Fightful, there is no current plans right now for a hard split, quote, despite AEW sending a memo out to that effect several months ago. The report goes on to say that AEW had informed its roster that assembling two distinct rosters for Collision and Dynamite, but there'd be some exceptions, particularly regarding champions. It then adds, some were happy about this, seeing it as a way to curb drama. Others thought it would result in them missing out on signings and independent appearances, which AEW sees as a luxury. Yeah. So there we go. The split was intended initially to be something akin to the old SmackDown and Raw drafts of old, and just wrestlers appearing on one side rather than the other, but that now has been softened. It does explain why Tony Khan was always 1 foot in, 1 foot out when giving answers to the media, because clearly this has not been given unanimous praise backstage, and there's good arguments for and against it. And then already this week, it feels as though it's maybe not going to play out. We had Dynamite matches being advertised with vignettes on Saturday's show. There's now the discussion of where exactly CM Punk and the Elite will fit in and things like that. It doesn't look like this is getting cleared up anytime soon, does it?
This seems to me like the best option, to be perfectly honest. Soft, not officially confirmed, not officially announced, no draft, nothing like that. Just basically you might see someone more often on one show than the other, but it's not officially, they've not officially drawn a line. To me, this is probably just a way of saving a lot of hassle, right? And a lot of fannying on, because you might want certain top stars to draw on both shows. Also, it saves us getting dragged into pointless conversations about, they just drafted him last week and he appeared on the other show. And all these little tiny minutia things that get broken down to just exhausting levels of detail. I'm glad we're going to swerve those conversations. As long as the theory of this offering more opportunities to people who aren't currently getting them on TV, as long as that comes to light and that actually happens, I'm quite happy with it not being a hard roster split. I think this is totally fine, to be honest.
Collision offering a bit of breathing space, as we saw on Saturday, for Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks to feel like they were effectively starting again. They were declaring for the Owen Hart Cup. It can still be that, even without a hard split. But yeah, I think the proof of the pudding is going to be in this regard. A big criticism of AEW in the last year has been how insert your favourite talent has not been getting their requisite TV time. They should get that now. Yeah. Even without a hard split, you would think there would be space in the week for it. If they're not getting it, ask more questions.
Yeah, exactly. Then the debate evolves. Speaking of evolving, okay, let's go over to the Twitter questions for the day. Ashley has been on, Ashley Short, asking, morning gents, lots of people asked about Wardlow, so I've just grabbed Ashley's question here. Loads of people actually. I've seen some harsh takes on Wardlow over the weekend. What's next for the big man? Maybe a heel turn. So we had some people asking, is the TNT title buried? Is Wardlow buried? What's going on? Why did he lose? All of this stuff. Go for it.
There's a lot to it. So I'm not surprised about the various questions coming up about him as well. I think the title change was as much as anything to give Collision a major talking point for its first match, a bit of history being made.
Agree.
Point one. The other reason was that right there, because Christian Cage is a popper for life, and that celebration of his was absolutely incredible. He's already teeing up a feud with Luchasaurus when the poor dinosaur can't even get his claws on the title itself. It doesn't look good for Wardlow. I don't think any of his TNT runs have really delivered in the way that people have assumed they would do. I don't think he's through a fault of the booking as much as maybe some of his own, I don't want to say the word limitations in the ring, but just some of the things that people have not seen come through in his in-ring.
Sure.
It feels, unfortunately, it's felt simpatico. I think the booking and
simpatico.
Yeah,
that's not a word.
The booking and the matches have maybe both kind of conspired to not give Wardlow the run we thought. And to answer the question of what next, I think he's far from busted flush. I do not like seeing this idea that a guy like Wardlow, with all of these gifts, is just done and dusted, especially not in a company like AEW. I would love to see him as a flawed human being hit rock bottom by rejoining MJF or a heel-turned Punk in the same role. There was nothing wrong in AEW with being a human being that has to look and think, oh God, I've taken a wrong turn. And then you reboot the whole storyline. A second redemption for Wardlow, because his origin story is what? A poor family that had to work for MJF, finds his own way. It's okay for that own way to go down a few dark alleys, and that's the human experience, isn't it? Like
100%.
You can do that with a Wardlow, I think.
I agree. I think the booking has been suboptimal. I think the booking of the TNT title, really, since the Codyverse started happening, obviously I'm not talking about his first run, really has not been there. It has been thrown around with just flippancy across the board, and I think Wardlow has suffered from that. I think Hobbs suffered from it as well. I think Cody, Sammy, like Scorpio Sky, everyone who's held it over the past year and a half has suffered to some degree as a consequence of this. And it's something that
Darby there, and I think that's the only reason is because his one was just full of cool kick-ass.
It was like 6 weeks long or something. But it was still really fun. It was still really fun. So yeah, I think that the international title has surpassed it in many, many ways. I think that's a shame, because the original Cody run was so special, and the Brody Lee stuff was great and everything else. So yeah, I'd like to see them fix that. On Wardlow, I don't think Wardlow is going to be like the next Rock or anything like that. I see his potential as more of like a Batista level, kind of like a main event level bloke who you can throw out. Obviously, stylistically, they're very similar, but who you can elevate into that headlining role, and you know, he's not going to be the biggest draw in the company or whatever, but he's still going to do some awesome stuff. Dumb powerhouse jock energy. I love that in my wrestling. So I hope they can fix him. I hope they can right this course, because every single time they look like they're heading in that direction, he just loses randomly. I
think it's a reminder as well. You know, sometimes in wrestling when plans do have to change, pal. When he was absolutely at his hottest beating MJF, whatever the plans were for who was in the title picture, who was doing what, maybe change a few and go with Wardlow then. I think he's never fully quite recovered through not being rocket strapped when he was like white hot. I think he can get there again, but if they do get there again, just go with him. Just don't stumble and stop and start. Just
no more
go with him.
Faffing around.
He's too jacked and like fiery and awesome a guy to.
He's got a manager who bites people's thumbs off. It's great stuff. What more do you want? Elder has been on asking thoughts of CM Punk taking shots at the Elite. Do you feel that he got the green light from backstage or went off script? Do you agree with him adding fuel to the fire? I've got a really simple answer to this. I don't want to know. I don't want to know if this was approved. I don't want to know if he was shooting. I don't want to know if he's just going out of his way to be a menace. However, I'm going to know, because I don't have the luxury of not knowing in this job. We go over every news story, obviously. But I'd rather not know, because that's the magic of pro wrestling, and pro wrestling is a unique art form where you can take real issues and turn them into televised beefs. And the magic of that always was not knowing. So we're going to know, obviously, but I'd rather not, to be honest.
I don't want to know, but I do want to think that there's enough cordiality backstage to be able to go out and cut promos like this. And indeed, if the Elite, choose to fire back, more power to them too. I think I was feeling a bit like I was sticking on a tinfoil hat on Friday by suggesting that the mere fact that this comeback had occurred and meant more conversations had gone on than we'd realised. I wanted to believe, I'm not saying that they're all best friends, but that enough bridges had been built so that we could have promos like Saturday. Again, not a cheap plug for the stream or indeed my Twitter, but go back and check out mine and Murray's reactions to Punk's promo to show you the feelings that it generates. It's the wrestling you want to watch where it feels most real. And I did want to believe that enough water had passed underneath those bridges that they could fire these shots and leave stuff out there. I'm a firm believer that Punk and Page 2 has become as hot a hand as Punk Omega 1. It's good business if they can get there. So I genuinely hope that's the direction.
I think it might be. Let's move on to our final question of the day. Lester Lee has been on asking, with Forbidden Door literally right around the corner, oh yeah, it's at the weekend, good grief, do you think any women's matches will get added? I know it's unlikely, but maybe Willow versus someone. Fingers crossed, please, someone like Willow versus Izumi. Yeah, I mean, that would be great. The thing is, Stardom has a big show on either the same day or the day after or the day before. So Stardom people are not going to be on this show, most likely. Everyone's booked. I don't think there have even been conversations between AEW and Stardom, so that does suck. Maybe one day we'll get to that point. I think if there is a Forbidden Door match, it might be something like Athena, who's obviously based on Ring of Honor primarily, versus like an AEW full-timer. something like that. Meltzer, I think it was, sorry if it wasn't Dave, reported that before her injury, they were planning Mercedes versus Soraya.
Mane.
That's mental.
But to that point, obviously, with Mercedes Mane getting injured, Willow Nightingale does feel like a free hit that they could miss. She's the New Japan Strong Women's Champion.
Yeah.
Look, she rested on Collision on Saturday. We know really where she's rooted. However, she's got that belt that says otherwise. So I think it would be mad not to put her having a title match should be on the card. I was going to ask you, what's the situation with Tokyo Joshi Pro?
I don't know what their schedule's like over the weekend or anything like that. Obviously, they've been working with them for ages, for years and years at this stage. Yeah, it'd be cool if they did something. I mean, like, Yuka Sakazaki's coming over to AEW full time. I'm not sure if she's had her graduation match yet, or is she injured or something? I really don't know. A bit out of the loop, to be perfectly honest. It would be nice to see a collaboration. Like Miyu Yamashita's one of the 5 best wrestlers on the planet. So if you can get her on the card, that's a no-brainer to me, but we'll see.
Based on how little time they kind of afford the women on Dynamite especially, I think if you're going to book something, at least if it's booked on the go-home, it'll feel as hot as it can do.
Yeah, get the giant panda in. Why not?
Why not?
Sure.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's do it. Hey, thanks for joining us today. If you like videos like this, there's one on your screen right now that you're really going to love. It's been on your screen for a while, actually. You probably noticed it. See you later. Bye.